Imagine, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're driving over 100 miles an hour down the interstate, but it isn't fast enough. You've had your pedal to the floor for 10 hours and you're not even halfway to your destination. The finish line in Redondo Beach couldn't seem further away, and the police feel like they're everywhere because this race is extremely illegal. Such are the struggles that define the Cannonball Run, a forbidden race from New York City to the beaches of California. Let's dive into the history of this storied competition and the speed demons who have made it happen.
What the hell is going on here? Everybody's driving like maniacs.
The Cannonball Run, as we know it, originated in the early 1970s and was conceived by a pair of automotive magazine editors, Brock Yates, who you can see here, and Steve Smith from Car and Driver, who you don't see there. The event's official name, the Cannonball Baker Sea to Shining Sea Memorial Trophy Dash, was clearly a tribute to Irwin Baker and his coast-to-coast records. We'll explain that in a sec. But unlike Baker's trips from California to New York and vice versa, there was much more of an outlaw spirit in Yates and Smith's Cannonball Run. This was their way of sticking it to US government-mandated car regulations. Summing up the event's vision and mission, Yates proclaimed, "A balls out, shoot the moon, F the establishment rumble from New York to Los Angeles to prove what we have been harping about for years, that good drivers and good automobiles could employ the American interstate system the same way the Germans were using their autobahns. Yes, make high-speed travel by car a reality. Truth and justice affirmed by an overtly illegal act." There was only one vehicle in the event, a 1971 Dodge Custom Sportsman van nicknamed Moon Trash 2. Likewise, there was only one team, which included the two Car and Driver editors, artist and writer Jim Williams, and Yates' 14-year-old son Brock Jr., the latter of whom served as a lookout in case the police got involved. The trip, which started at Manhattan's Red Ball Garage and ended at the Portofino Inn in Redondo Beach, California, took 40 hours and 51 minutes to complete. Due to mechanical issues and some rough driving conditions, the trip wasn't as fast as the group had expected, but it was still considerably faster than Baker's pre-World War II records by a great margin. The man who actually inspired the name was originally known as plain old Irwin George Baker, an acrobatic performer from Indiana who later took his act to vaudeville shows in San Francisco. After returning to his home state, Baker became a successful motorcycle racer, and this was his gateway into the world of coast-to-coast driving. In May 1914, he drove his Indian motorcycle from San Diego to New York City in 11 days, 12 hours, and 10 minutes. Later that year, a New York journalist gave him the nickname Cannonball, a moniker he would continue to use throughout his career. As years passed, Baker would make several more attempts at transcontinental drives, doing so on both motorcycles and automobiles. In 1915, it took him 11 days, 7 hours, and 15 minutes to go from coast to coast in his Stutz Bearcat. He would keep breaking official records until November 1929, when he needed just 69 hours and 31 minutes while driving an air-cooled Series 14 Franklin. It should be noted that Baker took 53 hours and 30 minutes in his final cross-country run in 1933, but this isn't considered official as it wasn't a scheduled record attempt. Baker died at the age of 78 in 1960, and it would be another decade before he re-entered the pop culture zeitgeist. The second Cannonball Run was held about half a year after the first one, on November 15, 1971. For this sophomore iteration, there were 8 teams, 8 vehicles, and a total of 23 participants. By far the most prominent participant was Dan Gurney, who was arguably the era's most prominent auto racing American. Unlike most other drivers who specialized in only one type of competition, Gurney achieved success in Formula One, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Indianapolis 500, and NASCAR, and he teamed up with none other than co-creator Brock Yates himself for the second edition. Funny enough, he wasn't into the idea at first, but his alien father-in-law got him to change his mind.
He said, "Look, why don't you go ahead and do it? I mean, what's life all about? And I know you could do well in that."
Much like the inaugural Cannonball Run, the second running also started from the Red Ball Garage, and in what should come as no surprise, Gurney and Yates came in first place, requiring 35 hours and 54 minutes to drive from New York to California. Despite some weather-related delays, the duo shattered the previous record by almost 5 full hours, as did the next 4 teams that arrived at Redondo Beach within the next 2 hours or so. With the 2 Cannonball Runs from 1971 garnering a lot of press, it wasn't too shocking that the third edition on November 13, 1972 had a whopping 34 entries. The Cadillac Coupe de Ville, operated by winners Steve Bear, Bill Canfield, and Fred Olds, fell over an hour short of Brock Yates and Dan Gurney's records, crossing the finish line in 37 hours and 16 minutes. The fourth Cannonball Run took place well over 2 years later on April 23, 1975. By that time, the US had been under a restrictive speed limit of 55 miles an hour for about a year, which was panned in the automotive media and widely unpopular. However, that wasn't a problem for Rick Klein and Jack May, whose white Ferrari Dino 246 GTS bested 17 other cars and narrowly broke the record by finishing in 35 hours and 54 minutes. Cannonball Run aficionados had to wait till April 1st, 1979 for the fifth race. This time, there was an all-time high of 46 cars competing. The duo of Dave Hines and Dave Yarborough shattered the previous record more convincingly with their Jaguar XJS, credited with a time of 32 hours and 51 minutes and an average speed of 86 miles an hour. That was it for the Cannonball Run, though. Yates told the New York Times that he stopped organizing the event because he knew that someone would eventually get killed. With the end of Brock Yates' Cannonball Run in 1979 due to safety concerns came the US Express. These events, however, were much lower profile and had slightly different routes, with the first one starting in Brooklyn and ending in Santa Monica. The winners of that race were Rick Doherty and Will Wright. Wright later became known for beloved video game franchises such as SimCity and The Sims.
There are things you can do on the computer that kind of expand your perceptions outside of reality, and that you can go back and apply to reality.
The duo fell just short of breaking the record, though, as they finished the race in 33 hours and 9 minutes. Data on the 1981 US Express is scant, but we do know that this race ran from Long Island to Emeryville and was won by David Morse and Steve Klausman. Even less is known about the 1982 iteration, since there is no documentation on who won, what car they drove, or how long it took them to go from coast to coast. In an interview, Morse, who also took part in the 1982 race, recalled that the event was a complete mess thanks to heightened scrutiny from law enforcement. He said in an interview, "Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. The Highway Patrol of various states had been notified not only about the race, but about our car specifically. The officer would know me by name." The last US Express took place in 1983 and was won by Doug Turner and David Diem, whose 1980 Ferrari 308 GTS smashed the record by finishing in 32 hours and 7 minutes. Now, most casual racing fans probably know the Cannonball Run thanks to the multiple films based on the real-life races. The best known of these movies is 1981's The Cannonball Run, with Brock Yates himself writing the script and an all-star cast led by Burt Reynolds, Farrah Fawcett, Roger Moore, and Rat Pack members Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr., and Terry Bradshaw.
Let's go get a beer first. Yeah, let's go get a beer.
Despite boasting all that star power, neither the original film nor its 1983 sequel did well with critics. But was there ever a chance a critic would like this film? No. Even if you never saw Cannonball Run or its sequel, you have probably seen the end credits. They weren't the first to do it, but the bloopers running during the end credits are almost as famous as the movie.
I'm ready, I swear to God, I'm ready.
Then you've also got the Gumball Rally and Cannonball, which both premiered 5 years before the Cannonball Run and also sought to combine fast-paced action and laughter in a film celebrating anti-speed limit outlaw racers. Not that we judge, but neither movie is very good. After the US Express wrapped up without fanfare, the Cannonball Run and its spiritual successors faded from relevance to remain a relic of 70s automotive culture. It wasn't until 2007 that cross-country driving records became a thing again, and this was thanks to the revelations disclosed in Alexander Roy's memoir, The Driver: My Dangerous Pursuit of Speed and Truth in the Outlaw Racing World. At the time of the book's release, Roy was the head of a New York-based car rental agency and a veteran of several low-profile Cannonball Run-style events. Along with co-driver David Mayer, Roy drove his heavily modified 2000 BMW M5 from New York to Los Angeles in 31 hours and 4 minutes in October 2006, expertly evading the cops multiple times along the way. That was more than enough to break the then 23-year-old record set at the 1983 US Express, though the man behind the Cannonball Run didn't consider these runs as record-breaking. Speaking to the New York Times, Brock Yates said he had no problem with others attempting the Transcontinental Drive, but said they'd have to follow the original Cannonball Run route for records to be considered. Alexander Roy's 2006 New York to LA driving record was a pivotal event, and the Cannonball record fell multiple times in the decade and a half that followed. In 2013, the team of Ed Bolien, Dave Black, and Dan Huang became the first to break the 30-hour mark, registering a time of 28 hours and 50 minutes in their 2004 Mercedes-Benz CL55 AMG.
What was the average speed, would you say, Ed Bolien, that you were going?
It was, overall, it was about 98 miles an hour.
6 years later, another three-man team, this time featuring Arnie Toman, Doug Tabbutt, and Berkeley Chadwick, obliterated that record by taking another Mercedes, an E63 AMG, from New York to Los Angeles in 27 hours and 25 minutes. With COVID forcing people to stay home and most businesses to shut their doors, a number of drivers took advantage of the situation and set new records, though there's a case to be made that they shouldn't be considered due to the extraordinary conditions brought about by the historic global pandemic. Using the original Red Ball Garage to Portofino en route, Chris Allen, James Allen, and Cale Odner finished the run in 26 hours and 38 minutes in their 2019 Audi A8 on April 9, 2020. That record was extremely short-lived, though, as the duo of Toman and Tabbutt set what is the current overall record at the time of this video. In May 2020, Toman and Tabbutt took the same classic cannonball route in their 2016 Audi S6 and finished the challenge in 25 hours and 39 minutes, with an average speed of 112 miles per hour. Much like many other cars that broke the cannonball record, the Audi had its share of aftermarket modifications, notably including a decoy badge to make the vehicle vaguely resemble a Ford Police Interceptor if viewed from a distance. When talking about Arnie Toman and Doug Tabbutt's May 2020 Cannonball Run overall record, we need to use a bit of an asterisk. This is because, unlike the Cannonball Runs of old, no other drivers or teams were competing against them. That can also be said about the other 21st century records, but when it comes to actual Cannonball Run style races with multiple competitors, that record has also been broken. And it happened during the revived US Express, which returned on October 27, 2023, a full 4 decades after its last iteration. Keeping in the spirit of the OG US Express, the new version only allowed 1983 or older vehicles and engines, and all 15 entries were personally selected by the event's organizer, Taylor Hull. This time, however, the new US Express was more faithful to the classic Cannonball Run routes, unlike the previous ones where the start and end points were far more fluid. What was fluid, however, was the start time for each of the teams, which could take place anywhere between 6 p.m. and midnight. That's likely how organizer Hull and his team managed to hold the new competitive record of 31 hours and 36 minutes for just 1 hour. Not long after they arrived at the Portofino Inn, the record was broken by Cameron Davis and Aaron Tulin's 1979 Mercedes-Benz 450 SEL 6.9, which took 30 hours and 56 minutes to get from the Red Ball Garage to the Portofino. Will we see the non-competitive record go below the 24-hour barrier, or will we see times under 30 hours for competitive Cannonball Run-inspired events? Time will tell, but one thing's for certain, there's no shortage of modern-day drivers willing to put their vehicles to the test in these challenges.